I definitely saw the rough side of Camden. You didn't live in North Camden. I lived in North Camden for some
Yeah, we
time,
was in East.
right? Like
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Kawili and all that. So that was really my first introduction to Camden was North Camden. And it was very rough. And then, and I lived all over Camden. So Parkside, East Camden. Um, and so how did that affect me? I felt like it made me very tough. I felt like I survived Camden. I am going to survive everything else
Anywhere.
that is thrown at me. And I definitely feel like that has been the case.
Yeah.
I can't. I sometimes feel like, I can't be broken, but let me knock on wood because I don't want it tested.
Welcome to the Change Mind, a place where we can seek to be changed for the purpose of healing one's mind, body, and spirit. I am your host, Tamu King, and thank you for connecting with me today. Before we begin with this amazing interview, please remember to click like and subscribe. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing one of the most amazing and brilliant minds of our time. I'm going to allow her to introduce herself to our community more formally. So with that said, I would like to introduce to you Dr. V.S. Chochezi.
Thank you. Wow. Thunderous applause. I love it.
Yes, that was just for you.
I appreciate it. So I'm supposed to introduce myself. I'm going to give a really brief introduction and then go into more detail as we get into our interview here. But I'll start with I am the daughter of Staajabu and Heshimu. So I stand on their shoulders. My father is now deceased. He passed in 2014. He was an Air Force veteran, a professor, a reverend. He was a social worker and, a singer, a martial artist. He was just a really amazing person as well. My mother is still with us. She's still going strong. And she's my best friend. And she's also an Air Force veteran. She and I both graduated from Camden High School. And she's a grandmother. She is a retired administrative assistant from the UC system. She's had over 100 jobs. She's a poet, an activist, an artist, just, a really cool and down individual. A lot more to say about that, but we'll get into that. I'm the granddaughter of Grace and DP. Grace was born in Mississippi in 1915 or 1913. And I was very fortunate to have her in my life well into my 20s. And so she got to meet my children and several of her other grandchildren. Neither of my grandparents had more than a 6th grade education, if they even had that. But they were very resourceful individuals. My grandmother was a seamstress. She was a cook. She could clean everything. She was, I want to say, the first black president of the PTA in our city. My mom would correct me if she was here, if I got it wrong. But she was also a farmer and restarted her life. She was married at least 3 times. Both of my parents were also married at least 3 times each. Yeah. So, just a little bit about what shaped me, right? Like I was shaped by these individuals. My grandfather was a chauffeur, a carpenter, a bootlegger.
Okay.
Really smart, really funny, great sense of humor, loved to tell jokes, which is where I'm sure my mom got her sense of humor from. I got mine from my dad. So everybody tells me I act like him. So, but yeah, and that's on my maternal side. On my paternal side, again, my grandparents had very little education. I want to say that I said my grandmother on my maternal side came out of Mississippi. My grandparents on my paternal side came out of North Carolina. So a lot of Southern influence there. But because of my parents, their involvement in the Air Force, I also got a more, I guess, globalized or worldly view as well. And then, my grandmother migrated out of Mississippi to the north. And so, grew up on the East Coast and then came to California. So, and then I can go back. I'm a fifth generation Black woman, descendant of Africans in America. And that's as far back as I can go. I can't go much further than great-great-grandparents and haven't found that connection. I know I come from Africa, but haven't found that genealogical tie to Africa. And then we also have that question mark with my grandmother's father, whether he was Native American. I always heard that we were part Native American. And then I always heard that it was Choctaw. And then I heard it was from my grandmother, that one of her parents was part Choctaw. But when I go and look at the parents, I haven't found that. So I'm like, okay, well, what is it? Was he Irish? Was he Jewish? I haven't found it. So the grandmother's name was Rosenberg, my grandmother's mother. Her mother's maiden name was Rosenberg. So that sounds Jewish to me. I don't know. But the father was Harris, and he looks, he looks not dark black like the rest of us. So I'm like, okay, well, he might have had something else in there, but we don't know for sure what. And I haven't been able to get any records on that. So you have that part, but, always indoctrinated that I was African. And my parents were Pan-Africanists, so I got that influence as well. So I consider myself a Pan-Africanist. And what else? Let's see. So that's a little bit about my genealogical background.
Yeah.
I'm an educator, so I teach college. And because of that, or to explain that, I will tell you a little bit about my formal educational background. So again, I graduated from Camden High, but my freshman year of high school, I was recruited to go to this Quaker school. And the Quaker school went from K to 12th grade. So kindergarten to 12th grade. And they came to my junior high school to recruit me because of my grades and things like that. And they wanted to integrate this high school. It was a K through 12 school, the Quaker school. Morristown Friends and more. They decided that they were going to integrate us and bus us. They took about 12 of us from the inner city schools, the underprivileged folks, and bust us out to this school and, to give us a better education. And some didn't stay the full 4 years. I was one of them. I stayed a year, and then I was like, it was a mutual agreement that I should go to I always wanted to march in the Camden High marching band.
Okay.
I was very upset that I was missing out on that. And, but when you graduated from Morristown Friends, you were pretty much guaranteed admittance to any college of your choosing, right? So that was the idea, that I was going to get a much better education. But yeah, after a year, it was agreed that, okay, I could go to Camden High. And from there, I went to Howard University. So my freshman year of college, I was 17. I went to Chocolate City as a chemical engineering major. And I left as a journalism major after, halfway through the semester. It was agreed that I was partying way too much to be a chemical engineer.
Okay. I was about to say, what was this shift? But okay.
There were a lot of things. A lot of my friends were in communications. They were in the broadcasting station at Howard, so I would go hang out with them when they did their shift in the radio station and stuff. And I loved it. And I was a writer already. I was already writing. I had discovered writing probably even before junior high, so maybe elementary school. But I was published somewhere around 8th grade, 9th grade. One of my short stories got published in the local paper in, what was it, the Courier Post, I think it was.
That is the paper.
And
Yeah.
I didn't win the prize, but I got first runner up or something like that, and they published my story. So I had already fallen in love with writing, and by the time I was in college, I was writing for their literary journal. I was doing a newsletter for that. So I knew I loved writing. I knew I loved science, and everybody said, go into science because that's where the money is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I got into chemical engineering. That was my major. Chemistry was fine. Engineering was harder. And trying to do it all and party was a little impossible.
Usually
It
is.
was a little impossible. But I also was given the opportunity to job shadow. So in the engineering program that freshman year, and I think this really saved me, they had us job shadow. So I went to work with engineers. I went to something like a Coca-Cola plant. Watched how they came up with the formula for making Coca-Cola, and in different settings where I was in a clean suit and everything was very sterile, and and just imagine who I was working alongside in that job shadowing environment. It was primarily older white men, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So maybe I didn't see myself reflected. It definitely felt like that this was not my jam. I didn't love it. And so I knew I loved writing and everything, so I changed my major to journalism. And then I came home and reunited with my high school boyfriend. We started a family. And I sat out of school that year. And we got married and, tried to decide what we were going to do next. We were very young. I was 18, he was 19 when we got married. And then he went into the Coast Guard or something like that. National Guard, maybe. I don't know. I don't remember now. It was a long time ago. Got his GED, went into the Coast Guard, and then with the money that he sent home, I was able to get our first apartment together in Delaware, which was where my mother was at the time, and she was working at Delaware State College.
So I was about to ask him, like, well, how did you get to Delaware?
Yeah, she was working there, and not long after I got back in school at Delaware State College and was able to finish my degree there, my undergraduate degree in journalism. And somewhere in there, I got separated, got divorced, and became a single mom. So I was a single mom going to school, working. I worked in the Alumni Affairs office when I was at Delaware State. I continued writing, so I was writing for their newspaper, the student at Delaware State, and also writing for their literary journal as well. Mostly poetry. And when I graduated, I couldn't find appropriate work. Being a young single mother meant I didn't have the same freedom to just go cover a story at any time of the day or night. When you start in journalism, usually you start low on the totem pole, so low pay, few benefits, and, crazy hectic schedules. I applied to a lot of things, and I think after 3 to 5 months, I said, I was depressed. I'm like, it's just not working out. By that time, my mom had moved to Oakland and was working at UC Berkeley. And she said, you'll love Oakland. You should come out. There's lots of jobs here. You'll love California. And so I did. I packed up everything with the 2 girls on a Greyhound in 2 duffel bags. I caught the bus, and in 3 days, I showed up in Oakland and stayed with my mom for a little bit with the girls until I could get on my feet. I got a job at College of Alameda, and that was the department. So then I'm working as the department secretary. That's when we still had secretaries, right? And I loved it. I loved being on the campus. I wasn't really familiar with community colleges. I never had attended one undergrad, and I fell under the stigma, right? Like a lot of times it was community college is inferior, and if you have the grades, you go to a 4-year. And so working at a community college, College of Alameda in the Bay Area in Oakland, wow, it was just such a really great experience. So I lived in Oakland for a year. I worked at College of Alameda. It was a lot. The Bay Area was even expensive back then. And paying for childcare, transportation, getting them to deep East Oakland for preschool for preschool, then catching another bus going to Alameda to work. It was a lot. And then rent and all the things. It was just really expensive. And so I was falling in love with the idea of teaching community college. I was working with professors. I was working with students. I was working with staff. I was on the campus. The campus was live. And I said, I think I want to be a community college professor. So I started talking to the professors. And I mean, they just seemed like they loved their jobs and they were living such a sweet life. And I was like, I want that. And so they said, well, you got to go get your master's. And I was like, bet, that's what I'm going to do. So I applied to San Francisco State, Sac State, and one other college that I don't remember even now. I was accepted to Sac State, beautiful campus, and I said, oh, I want to come here, And so I got my master's in communication studies. Meanwhile, I found work first with the city. So I worked as a research tech for the Sac City Unified School District. Then I moved to the county, so I worked for Sac County Office of Education, doing publications, using my journalism degree. And then, I was doing that. And then I started working for a nonprofit organization and loved all that work, working in education, working in nonprofit. And while I was in the master's program, I was a teaching assistant, a graduate assistant. So I was teaching while I was in the program. Did an internship at one of the community colleges, loved it. So even when I went into the master's program, I knew when I went in, I wanted to teach community college. And not long after, once I graduated, I started teaching as a part-time instructor at anybody who would hire me. So I've taught for everybody in the Sacramento area at one time or another, pretty much. And love teaching. I still love teaching. Now I'm full-time tenured faculty at Folsom Lake College. Still doing that and doing equity work at the same time. So I'm a faculty coordinator for our equity center there as well. And I've been doing that for several years. And I love the work. And it is work. Diversity work is work. It's a lot of emotional labor. Somewhere in there, I decided that after 10 years after I got my master's and working and everything, I ran into someone who I went to their doctoral graduation. They invited me, and it was beautiful. And I was like, nostalgically, I'm like, I've always wanted to get my doctorate, but this and that. I remember applying for creative writing at different times maybe it was for MFA though, but maybe it was for doctorate. I can't remember now. Long time ago. But I mentioned that, and they were like, oh, have I got the news for you? You need to apply, because guess what? Drexel University is in Sacramento. And I was like, what? Because that's a Philadelphia-based school, and they had opened a satellite campus in Sacramento. And I said, really? And they said, yeah, go talk to this person, go talk to that person. And of course, I used that as an interview because my master's program was really challenging and honestly really hard on Black folks. Yeah, I'm out in my alma mater because it's not really a secret. But now they have a Black president, okay? So it's really changed the game. Sac State now has a Black president who is conscious and making really wonderful changes at my alma mater. So when I went into the doctoral program, I went with, my arms up, and I was like, okay, what y'all gonna do for me? Now I think back on it, I'm like, I was so ridiculous. But they was Philly, so they were ready, right? So it was all good. I got in. I did that program, got my doctorate in higher educational leadership and management. Learned a great deal, made some great friends along the way. Really appreciated all my instructors. It was really a great experience. And I think it also helped me get the full-time tenured position. Even though, it's not a requirement to have a doctorate to teach at community college. When it's us, it helps to be overqualified. Yeah, I'm really happy in my status there. So that's a little bit about my educational background, my work history, and then I'll call them hobbies, but maybe also other passions. So I'm a poet, a spoken word artist. For 34 years, I've been performing with my mother, Staajabu. She and I have a team, a poetry team. We call ourselves Straight Out Scribes. And we perform under that moniker. We also publish under Straight Out Scribes. So we have 8 books of poetry. We have 2 poetry CDs. And we've also now branched out and published other things. So we self-publish. We also get published in other publications like anthologies and things like that. So one that I'm particularly happy to be a part of that came out maybe about 2 or 3 years ago now is called Black Fire, and it's published by Willow Press. And I have maybe 3 poems in that anthology. My mom has several poems in that anthology, and it's packed full of renowned poets. So, we have legitimation. We've been legitimized by the outside world in a lot of different ways, being published in different places. But we also self-publish our own work. And two of our more recent works that we self-published, one is an anthology of short stories that my mom wrote, and I published her. It's called Caledonia's Daughters, and it's African women in space. It's futuristic, sci-fi. Predates Black Panther and a lot of the sci-fi stuff we've seen. I'm like, oh, they bit. They stole it on us. They borrowed from Staajabu. I don't know. Great minds think alike, right? So we generally all get there, maybe at different timelines. And then my newest work is nonfiction. It's called Undone to Well Done. And it's a book, I call it a self-help guide to finishing your doctorate or master's degree. But it's been out about maybe 2 years now, and people have told me that it helped them even if they weren't in a higher ed program, that it helped them finish things that they have been struggling with in their personal lives, in work environments, and in, things like projects. So that's been very affirming. The book, it made a couple book lists. It didn't make number one, but my thing is, I believe it's number one among people of color, for people of marginalized groups. I think that's the number one book you want to have if you're looking to complete something, if you've been struggling to finish something. So, and I've had some successes. Have called me up and let me know that they got through something that they've been struggling with for years and years and years. And so that makes me feel good, that I'm helping people that way. And how I ended up writing that book is I was coaching people individually here and there, and again, my mom being my best friend, I would tell her about some of that. And she'd be like, you can help more people if you write a book. And she probably said that for about 3-4 years. And then she was like, well, I don't think we should do any more projects till you write that book. And so she pushed me and needled me and pressed me and hounded me and prodded me and poked me until one day I just sat down and wrote it. It was like, and I think this is the way I approach a lot of my writing. It's like a lot of the work happens up here, sort of in the background. And then one day it's like, I'm ready. And it just pops out. Kind of like gestating the baby for 9 months. And then when the baby is ready, not when you're ready.
Pop out.
Necessarily. Yeah. It's like, hello, I'm ready.
Exactly. Nice.
Okay, so poetry. Poetry is my thing. I like to write and I like to perform. Believe it or not, my mom doesn't love to perform. She's like, it's the churning of the stomach and the butterflies and all that stuff is bothersome for her. And I'm like, yeah, but that's normal. It's okay to be a little. So I teach communication, public speaking is one of my jams. And I still get butterflies too, but I'm like, yeah, but that thunderous applause.
Yeah. I just feel like it's a part of the process.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. I do think that sometimes I feel like if it ever comes a day where I no longer get that feeling, I feel like I'll get to the point where it's no longer like a it thing for me. I feel like maybe I done got beside myself or big headed or something. You know what I mean? I do feel like it's a natural, it should be, because I just feel like it helps you to get out of yourself and to get focused on the goal, the purpose. So yeah, I do feel like it's a natural thing to happen. Like it's a good thing,
I saw you take like a deep breath before we started, and I was doing the same thing. It's like you gotta center yourself, you gotta focus, push those butterflies down, and
I teach and I train. I've been doing that for years, and I tell people all the time. People like, you're nervous? Yeah, all the time. No matter how much I teach on this topic, it's the same way, because you're a different group. This is a different moment, a different experience, a different time. Yes, I get butterflies. I get nervous, you know, and they're like, wow, we can never tell. I said, well, that's good. But,
Yeah, because it's managing the anxiety, but you can't get rid of it, or you shouldn't strive to. I think it energizes, right, the performance or the it's not necessarily that it's a performance or a show, but the offering, right? It energizes the offering. And I think for me, it is believing that you have something important to share that is the reason to get up there and do it. One of the things that runs in the background of my poetry and performance is, if you see the button here, freedom, is Mumia Abu Jamal, and the fact that he's been unjustly locked down for so long, and so making connections and helping people discover him or remember him, and do something to work toward his freedom, because I feel like if we all did a little something, he'd come out alive and free. I really dread the idea of him not being freed. We've been, in addition to the writing, we're activists. And when I say we, I'm talking about Staajabu and I, my mother. And we've been activating, advocating on behalf of political prisoners for many years. So we worked on the campaign to free Geronimo Pratt and the Move 9. And we were, fortunate to see them come out of prison and be back into the free world. And we want to see that for Mumia as well. Mandela, we worked on freeing Mandela. And like when I say these things to people, it sounds like an impossibility. And it seemed like an impossibility, but once you see Mandela come out of prison and become the president of South Africa, it's not impossible. It can be done. And reparations, people in California are now getting reparations. Do you know, for 25, 30 years, people were like, we were never going to get reparations. That's silly. That's a waste of time. Don't do that. Which is, poo-pooing it and everything. And now it is, not only on the horizon, it's here. It's happening.
Okay. Wow. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, it is. Palm Springs. Some folks in Palm Springs, they just got, some repair, monetary kickback on land that was stolen from them. I'll share some articles with you later so you can see. And one of the things I like is Black media, because they will, the media, regular mainstream media, has so much to cover, right? It kind of feels like that's a big enough deal that it should be making, the rounds, but the Black media, that would be, at least second page news.
Okay.
Maybe not the front page, but you'd see it. It might be buried in mainstream media.
Mm-hmm. I did want to ask you. I want to go back.
Okay.
Hi, my beautiful people. So I just wanted to take a moment to tell you about Dr. V.S. Chochezi's new book, Undone to Well Done. Now, when she originally wrote this book, it was to help individuals who were working on their doctorate degree and their master's degree, because it's hard. I have worked on both, and I'm telling you, it is a journey and it's a struggle. And I wish I had this book while I was working through that, but actually I started a new doctorate program, so it's going to help a sister. So I say all that to say, get this book. It can help you through that journey. But what she has also found out, people have been sharing with her that even though people who are not in a master's degree, who are not in a doctorate degree, just projects and things that they are seeking to complete, this book has helped them to do that. So Undone to Well Done is on Amazon, so I'm going to have the link down in the description. You need this book. It will help you tremendously. Continue to watch the podcast. See you soon. A couple things came up for me. One, so we know you went to Morristown Friends, Camden High, so that meant you lived in Camden, New Jersey, right? So when people think of Camden, particularly when they find out I'm from Camden, sometimes they get an eyebrow up, like, and I've had people ask me, this one lady in particular, she was like, it took everything in me, to respond in a way that was not ignorant, I guess you could say. So she looks at me and she says, how did you make it out? And I said, because I was lost. Like, it came out of the blue. Like, we weren't talking about workplace. And she was like, I'm just curious. How did you make it out? And I said, make it out of where? Because he said, out of Camden, because I know that place. How did you make? So it infuriated me, like her thought about my city. Other places have their moments or whatever, but me growing up in Camden, New Jersey was a lovely place. Born in 1972, it was a lovely, lovely time to be there. So my question, you've come, what was it like being from a city known as Camden, New Jersey? Like, what was your experience there, and how do you think it helped you to get to where you are today? Or do you not feel like it helped you? Like, we can look at it either way. What was it like being from that space?
Well, because I wasn't born and raised in Camden, and was in and out, and so I had seen a lot of different environments. Like I said, spending a year at Morristown Friends and seeing how different that educational environment was. For example, I tell the story that in my 9th grade English class at Morristown Friends, we had a part of our English class that was SAT preparation. So you were taking the SAT prep test in your English class. That was not happening for me at the high at any level, even though most people agreed that I was college track, right? Like, I graduated number 10 from Camden High out of like 450 students. And that was the year that I decided I was going to relax, I'm just going,
wow.
You know how people, seniors get, and they're like, oh, I'm a senior, I got this, whatever, I'm just going to chill. I probably should have graduated higher, but, I didn't have that attitude. I wasn't
10.
Yeah. So, I wasn't getting that kind of guidance that I would have certainly gotten had I stayed at Morristown Friends. I was exposed to a lot of things that I wouldn't have been exposed to if I had done all 4 years at Camden High. Additionally, I lived in other cities. I lived in LA at one point, in Venice. I lived in Georgia at one point, K-12. One year, I think I went to 5 different schools. My mom moved around a lot.
Yeah. Did that have to do with the service or being in the service?
No.
Okay.
It had to do with her being young and having one child and, circumstance, whatever, life. Probably usually something to do with breaking up with some dude.
Okay. Hey, it is what it is.
Let me behave. I know this is being recorded, and who knows who's gonna see it and watch it. But yeah, I was moved around a lot. So, but I do still consider Camden my home, even though now I've lived on the West Coast longer than I ever lived in Camden, but my people are still there. And people do tell me, they're like, you seem so East Coast still. I'm like, yeah, that's home. So, I say all that and just to give it some context. But yeah, for me, growing up in Camden was rough. It was rough. I definitely saw the rough side of Camden. You didn't live in North Camden. I lived in North Camden for some time, right? Like with Tawili and all that. So that was really my first introduction to Camden was North Camden. And it was very rough. And then, and I lived all over Camden. So Parkside, East Camden. And so how did that affect me? I felt like it made me very tough. I felt like I survived Camden. I am going to survive everything else that is thrown at me. And I definitely feel like that has been the case. I sometimes feel like, I can't be broken, but let me knock on wood because I don't want it tested. Tested. But, I've been tested a lot. And I know I've survived things that other people would have broke them all the way down. And, I'm still surviving things. I still have my challenges. But I'm still smiling too, And I think I do blame Camden for that. I'm like, yes, Camden got me ready for whatever life had to come, bring on. I could confront it. It taught me to be able to deal with confrontation. Some people can't. I can definitely deal with confrontation, and you know how it was like at Camden High. I was in the marching band, and we was at every football game. And if you lost the game, you won the fight, right? It was like, so I tell people, it's like, okay, well, I'm not really that worried about most things because you probably can't beat me.
It made you
The
tough.
one person that scares me really on the planet is Staajabu.
It's
That's
your
about
mama.
it.
Made us tough. It did.
Made me tough. It did, And smart, because I also learned that you can't resolve everything with fisticuffs. You have to use your brain, and I learned to be resourceful, and Camden gave me a lot of tools.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I would say the same, that it made me tough, right? And it let me know that I can do whatever, challenges, whatever, I can overcome them. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, have you ever, with both of your parents, a lot of times I know people who parents were in the service, have you ever thought about being in the service at all? Like during your time?
So initially I was very anti-military, very anti-military. But I think this is the way a lot of people end up in the service, just kind of can't find work, really struggling. And so I said, well, maybe I need to enlist. And the thing that turned me around from doing it is that they said I had to sign over my kids. Right. I want to say I thought about joining after my ex-husband had already joined. So they were like, we can't have two parents in unless you sign your kids over to guardianship. And so, it would have had to been my mom or my dad. And I didn't want to sign over my kids. So that is what kept me out of the service, kind of. But I always had a notion that being in service would be problematic for me. And when you talk to my parents, they were very structured. My mother is very, very structured. I'm very not like that. And didn't really do well with being told what to do and how to do it and when to do it and all those things. So I guess some people would say rebellious. I would say I was very free and loved being free and was willing to fight to remain free. And so people, at a very young age were like, oh, you're going to be in the brig the whole time. If you're in the service, you're always going to be locked up. You just don't want to follow directions and do things as you're told and things like that. Also very creative. I was very creative, and so being structured, like my mom is very creative also, but being structured doesn't always allow for creativity, So yeah, I had a big problem with people telling me what to do. It was always a problem. Yeah, while I was getting very good marks in school, even from a young age, I would also get sometimes poor marks around citizenship. That's what they called it, citizenship, in school, because I just had my own way of doing things, and I thought I should be allowed to do it that way,
Do you feel like you're structured the same way still now?
Me or they or who?
You. Do you feel like you're still that same way of, you don't like structure like that and you want to be able to do things how you want to be able to do them?
Yeah, very much still the same.
Mm-hmm.
And many times with the same result. It's not always appreciated, it's not always appreciated, but
How does that work?
it is often appreciated. It's like I can get things done because even though I do it my own way. And I'll just give you an example. Like I've never been a morning. So, the society is structured that school starts at 8. That means you got to be up by 7. You got to do this and that and the other thing to be ready to get up and get there by 8. I lived maybe 3 blocks from Camden High and was late almost every day. No matter what I did, it didn't make a difference. I was always late to school. And I'd be like, what? I still was outperforming 90% of the people in school when I was not when I wasn't even trying my hardest. You know what I mean? So that is, anyway.
What does that look like with your students?
It's a struggle,
if they're late, what does that look like with your students if they're
I'm
late,
always on
they're
time
not
for class.
structured? No, your students. Like knowing you are the way that you are, right? And then you have those students who maybe show up late or struggle with the structure. How do you work with them knowing they're kind of like you? You know what I mean?
Work with those students really well. I am. I'm like, listen, I understand life is lifing, right? Like you got kids, a job, your car broke down, all the things. I get it. Yeah. That's how I work with those students. I'm like, I'm glad you made it to class. Thank you for coming. Yeah. I'm like, thank you for coming. Let's see what you got. What did you bring? What kind of energy are you gonna contribute to the class today? We're here. We're in it. Jump in. This is where we are. Come on in. Whatever. Yeah. And I'm working to change. And sometimes I'm resisting the change. So we got a duality. And so and that's one of the things that I loved about my doctoral program. For instance, like we had to take a law class, right? And in law, you need to be able to see both sides of an argument or all sides of an argument, right? You have to be able to not only, let's say you're the prosecutor, not only do you have to know your side of it, you have to know the defense side as well to put up the best argument. So I like to be able to, like, I can see your point and I understand the need for structure and all of that. And I'm not saying do away with structure completely, but at the same time, I'm like, that structure doesn't fit me. I am that square peg. You are that round hole. Like we got to make some adjustments to include me in the mix. And so with DEI in California, we've come to realize that we used to say that the environment had to be, that the student had to be ready for the environment. So you had to prove you were ready to come into college. More and more, we're saying that the college needs to be student ready. So we're like, where are you now, and how do we meet you there, and then get you where we need you to get to, right? The problem with higher ed is that you have people who've been there 30 years who know the old way. And I happen to be one of those people, right? Like how we used to do it. But some folks ain't trying to let go of how we used to do it. And so we're, and we can't get rid of those folks. They got tenure and everything else, right? So the job is to slowly change the structure. Unfortunately, slowly. Can't do it real fast, just turn it over. Yeah, I have loved working in environments where that is the most of the students that they give me are the students who have not fit well into the current structure. And then I can show them that, for example, you can hear my lapses where I use my ebonics because I'm fluid and fluent like that, code switching and all the things. But I teach my students that you don't have to kill the language that you came in here with. You just have to learn how to speak this other language. It's like you're being bilingual. It's not like you have to only speak this way, because when you leave this environment and you go to that other environment, you might still need that other language that you came in here with, right? Like, I'm not trying to get you to get rid of it. I'm trying to get you to add to it. So yeah, I don't have a problem with whatever they come in with, but I'm also trying to teach them, well, I don't want you to leave the same way you came, because that's not growth, right? That's stagnation. So hopefully you came to learn something, even if it's not what the syllabus said. Hopefully you can agree that you're going to learn something from me while you're here. I can learn something too, but that's not necessarily why I showed up. That's not why I show up.
That's funny. That's good though. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So you've done a lot. Like I listened to your journey and you have accomplished a lot. Is there anything else you see yourself doing? Like, is there anything else that you feel like, you know what, I still want to reach here. I want to be able to do this. Is there anything else there? And if so, what, you mind sharing what that is?
Well, I didn't talk a lot, so I talked about my poetry, but another thing that I do is I do art, and I do broken glass mosaic art. And I've, been fortunate to be able to exhibit from time to time. I also do quilting. I'm very much an amateur, but I love it. And so in my spare time, which I don't get a lot of, but I like to quilt.
You got some mosaic art close to you? Maybe you can.
Always, yeah. But it's hard to show, but I'll see what I can do.
I didn't know if you had something like smaller, easy to put on camera. Love to be able to show the people.
Okay, so I have this piece. Oh, it does show up pretty good on the thing. Usually on Zoom, I feel like I can't hardly get things show.
Wow,
things.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. So this is a piece
I can see that real good.
that I did. That I displayed. I have sold work too, so yeah, I've sold quite a bit of work. So I'm
Does that
happy
have a
with
name?
that too. This is another one that I did.
Wow. Do they have a name?
These are pieces that I hold on to. I want to say this one might be called Dreamboat or something like that. I don't remember now, but
that's beautiful. Both of
and this one might be like Jazzscapes or something like that.
I can see that.
Oh, wait. I feel like I got it. No. Yeah, it's upside down. Here we go.
But I could see when you said like Jazzscape.
And I put words in a lot of my pieces. Okay, I got one more. I'll show you.
Those are beautiful. Wow. And I also see the piece. I don't know if you did it, but I see the piece on your wall. Piece
Oh, I'm
of
sorry.
art.
I walked far enough away that I didn't hear you.
No, I see a piece. I don't know if you did it or someone else, the piece on your wall, the painting behind you.
Yeah, that one was done by my niece. This
This is
is,
pretty too. I see faith, genuine, free, united, cool, balanced. Is that a cross in the center?
it's a,
Okay, I see it now because I see the yellow around. I
yeah,
didn't
it's
see it
an
at first. Okay.
but that's a good eye because some people don't see it, right?
Okay.
Did you see the butterfly?
Put that back up.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay. I do. Now I see it. Yes, I
Yeah.
do. Yes, I do.
So that's butterfly affirmations, which it's one of my favorite pieces. So my goal is I want to do a show of 10 pieces. Okay, I got to show you two more pieces.
Hey, let's show them. Let's show them. Those are beautiful. Those are absolutely beautiful. So, okay, so I see the eyes. I see the.
I'll give you some more clues, but
Because I'm trying to.
yeah, I'll give you some more clues. But I want to show it a little more. Okay, so hold on, let me see if I can show you this other thing and maybe you'll see it.
Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah. I love that piece on her wall too. That painting with the beautiful sisters.
Okay, can you see this?
Yes. Is it like a duck or swan?
Right. So let me show you this
Okay.
again.
Okay.
Because that is what inspired this piece.
Okay. Okay. Because I know I did see an eye
And that was an earring that was gifted to me by an artist.
okay.
She made those earrings.
Yeah, because I see the animal. I just wasn't sure. Okay, now I see the feet. Okay.
Yes. So this is the same animal, and it's an Adinkra symbol, and it's called Sankofa. And Sankofa is this bird, and the bird is always looking back. So you can see its head is turned towards its tail, but the feet are facing forward. And Sankofa stands for go back and get it, or go back and catch it, fetch it. Meaning what you left in the past, sometimes you got to go back to the past to be able to move forward. Right? So that's my Sankofa piece. And it's actually a table.
And I like that.
And then this is a piece I want to work on. This will be all mosaics one day.
Okay.
One day,
Yeah.
I'll get that done.
I was just going to say, I like that saying because so many times we're always talking about, oh, leave that stuff behind. Let's just move forward. But I do believe that sometimes we got to reach back to figure that stuff out, work through it so that we can move forward in a healthy way. Right?
That's right.
Instead of acting like that stuff didn't exist or whatever. So, no, I like that thought process.
And then they also say something like, if you don't know your history, you can't figure out where you're going to go.
Where you going?
Into the future or something like that. Yeah. So Sankofa, I like that. You'll see it now that you know what it is. You'll see it around. It's a Adinkra symbol, Adinkra West African symbol, and there's hundreds of them, but that is a popular one. The picture back there with the women, my niece painted that. She's an artist as well. So this is my sister Maisha's daughter, Ariana. I'm my mom's only, but my dad had a few others. Maisha's the first sister under me by about 10 years or more, 12, 13, something like that, 14 years younger. Thank you. Yeah, so my goal is to have 10 pieces, to complete 10 pieces for an art show. It may take me 3, 4, 5 more years to get that done, but that is one of my goals. I have a quilt that I've just about completed. I may have shared this with you. It's a t-shirt quilt, and it has a lot of I cut up the t-shirts from the Granny's reunions.
Yes, you
And
did.
put them in with African fabrics. And I finished the front. I'm almost finished with the back. And then I have to do the border. So that may be another year away. And then I like to travel. I discovered traveling in six. I went to Tanzania. That was my first time going to Africa. I met a woman who, her husband, Pete O'Neill, was exiled to Tanzania. And so they fled the country. He was accused of some crime. He was a Black Panther and fled the country. And then they have been living in Tanzania for over 40 years. There's a film about them called A Panther in Africa. It's on YouTube. And I met her at some function, and this is the thing about saying things, right? You gotta watch what you say, because things just come at you. I said, I wish I was done one of the doctoral program. Next thing I knew, I was in a doctoral program. I was like, whoop, okay. I mean, it happened quick, right? And I was always like, oh, I've never been to Africa. And she was like, just come. She was like, I got a place you could stay. She's an artist. She's a musician. She's an educator. They have a school there. You can go and volunteer at the school, get accommodations, meals, and a place to sleep very affordably, and work with children. A really nice, beautiful experience. And then you can do all the things that tourists do, go on safari and do all the stuff. So in 2006 I went and did all of that, and it was a great experience. And I really thought I would go back again, but I haven't been back yet. I think maybe in a year or two I'll be ready to return to Tanzania. But from there, I got the bug. I went to Jamaica, Bahamas, Guatemala, and most recently, I went to Ghana in 2022, and then again in 2024. Yes, and I went as part of my job as an educator. I went to a educator summit with about 350 other, mostly California educators, to study African-centered education, because all over the country, Black students are not performing at the same levels as mainstream students. And this has been going on for a very long time. And we surmise that all the curriculum is so Eurocentric, and our students just really can't connect to it. And so we have to revise our approach to curriculum and infuse more African-centered education into the curriculum. And so that's what we've been studying. So I was selected as a delegate the first time, as a fellow this second time, and it was a 10-year commitment. So I still have about eight more years to do this work, but I really like Ghana. It was a fantastic experience both times. And I know I'll be going somewhere else. So when you say, now what's next for you? I know I'm going to be, I love, and you might know that I speak, read, write, and can converse in Spanish. And so I love going to Spanish-speaking countries. I've actually been to Mexico quite a few times. And so I have bucket lists for sure, like Peru, Puerto Rico, Panama, things like that. And And the one thing I didn't talk about, but I do want to talk about, which is that, like I said, I have two daughters. Both of them have communication degrees. One went to UC, to CSU, to San Francisco State, and one went to CSU LA. And one got her degree in radio and television. The other one got hers in film. And then she went back and got her master's in photography, fine arts photography. And, both really amazing individuals. The one sad challenge in my life right now is that my younger daughter is estranged and is not in contact with anybody and hasn't been now for a few years. And with her went my grandchildren and her husband. So, it's been quite a bit to work through, missing them and everything. But beautiful people, very brilliant, smart, beautiful people that I helped raise. But we all come here, I think, with our energy. And you say, does it change? I don't really think it changes a lot. I think we come here in the womb. I knew what I was working with in the womb, right? So, and it came to pass both times. But we just do our best as parents to guide and contribute and try to help as much as we can, Yeah. Gave them strong foundations. But my mom said, you should have took them to Camden. I'm like, they would be different. They would be different.
They
Or would
would.
they? I don't know.
That's funny.
Yeah, Camden gave me a strong foundation. I'm not mad at Camden for any of it. And I love to go back and visit or come back and go back and visit and see the sights. And the first thing I got to get when I go to Camden every time, a Panzerotti.
I didn't going to say that. I didn't going to say that. My brother and them, they get them. Yeah, that is so funny.
Yes, I got to get my Panzerotti. Now, like back when I ate meat and stuff, it would have been a Philly cheesesteak sandwich and a hoagie and all that stuff. But nah, even though, like, I honestly don't even eat dairy anymore.
Yeah, I don't.
But I would probably be looking for that Panzerotti
That is
anyway.
funny. You said just because. Yeah, they were lovely. They were. They were.
Once every 10 years probably won't kill me.
Funny. Yeah, it's funny. Like every so often, well, not even ever so often. Everyone, if mommy or Aunt Sarah are in that area for some reason, they'll go take like a tour because things have changed. Different companies had built up because at one time Camden had got a lot of money, to bring companies got a lot of money to go into the city, right, in hopes of bringing jobs and things like that. So many areas have changed. A lot of great things have happened. There's some not so great things, but a lot of great things has happened within the city, and things are seeking to change. There's always work. You know what I mean? There's always still a downside, a lot of stuff they still need to work on, but like anything, it's a process.
I've been there since they built up the waterfront. That's, been really lovely. I don't know if it's been maintained.
Yeah, it is, and it's still they're building up even more. I mean, when you go downtown, it's almost a college town now.
Wow.
I believe it's Rutgers. I believe Rowan. It's definitely Rutgers, and I believe Rowan might have some pieces in there along with Cooper Hospital. So yeah, it's turning into So it's
very cool.
Even coming up even more.
I heard they, actually raised the high and then rebuilt a new school there. So I probably won't recognize it at all.
Technical. It's like this it's a beautiful. It's huge. It is absolutely huge. It's a lot that's going on in that school. Yes, they did. They shut it down and they rebuilt it. It's like this big technical school. It's huge.
And we called it the castle on the hill. So I'm like, I don't know what it is now, but
It's a beautiful space. I haven't been inside. I would love to be able to go inside to see what it looks like, but it's a beautiful
What's
space from
happening
the
with
outside.
Wilson? I haven't heard anything about
Well,
Wilson.
they had changed the name to East Side High. They
Wow.
got rid of the name Woodrow Wilson. But I
Why?
did hear not too long ago that they also are supposed to be taking it down, and my understanding is rebuilding it.
Wow.
That's all
Okay.
I heard. I didn't get much detail about what is
Mm-hmm.
happening, but I believe something similar is supposed to be happening to that school as well. So I mean, I feel like that's
Amazing.
a good thing, you know? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah. That progress. I love it.
Correct, correct.
You know. Yeah.
I
Any
thank you
other
so much.
questions for
No,
me? Anything else you want to know about?
I'm just thankful that you're giving me the time. You know what? I do want to ask one more thing. One more thing.
Okay.
What if you in leaving, our time together, what is something you could pour into folks? What is something that you can leave them with?
I'm not hearing the question. Say it again.
What is something that you can leave with, like something that you can pour into people? What is something that you could say to them that
Oh,
could
can I
make
leave? Can I share a poem?
Please do.
All
Actually,
right.
I was going to ask, but I was like, I didn't want to put you on the spot, or so I kind
Please,
of.
that's what I do.
Please, awesome. That's perfect.
Actually, I got a few poems I pulled out because I was like, oh, she want me to talk about myself. I feel like if people want to know me, all they got to do is read my poetry. That's what I be
Right?
feeling like sometimes.
That would be great. Yeah, I didn't want to. I wanted to ask, but I'm like,
But now that I've been talking, I'm like, do I like any of these poems? Probably not. Okay, I won't do those. I'll do this one though. No, I'm gonna do this one. Okay. I got a couple. Okay. This one is from Spirals, Spirits, and Spells, which is our latest poetry anthology. And it's called When the Beautiful Awaken. When the beautiful awaken, they will realize that their hair, eye, and skin color, their clothing and shoe choices, the size of their breasts and waist, the straightness of their teeth, the length of their nails, and shape of their eyebrows have no bearing on their beauty. When the beautiful awaken, they may dance naked in their experience, stroking every wrinkle, thanking every stretch mark, smiling lovingly over every indication of aging, indulgence, privilege, and sacrifice. When the beautiful awaken, they will stand fully in their authenticity, unapologetically in their magnificence, embracing everything that marks their journey on this earth, comparing nothing to their neighbors, friends, celebrity crushes, or strangers on their screens or in the streets. When the beautiful awaken, their insecurities will vanish, their vanities will diminish, their inner glow will shine forth. When the beautiful awaken, they may appear to glide, levitate, or float. They may exude confidence and charisma. They may appear to be love magnets or homing beacons for positivity. They may seem unusually lucky, overly happy, like drunkards, or generally cool and calm like regular users of Valium. Egos in check and steady of pace, they may appear humble and nearly impossible to ruffle. When the beautiful awaken, they will inspire others to embrace their own natural beauty. It may catch on more quickly than the Omicron variant, and before you know it, we will recognize our own beauty and acknowledge the beauty in each other, and we may spend all our days admiring one another. Then, just like that, this new beautiful awakening will inspire world peace. Yes, world peace will be achieved when the beautiful awaken in mass. Okay, and then I want to share one more. This one I wrote in Tanzania. Well, it started in Tanzania, and then I wrote it when I got back, really. Let me see if I can get it.
That was beautiful.
Thank you. This is another one of my favorites. Let's see. I can't find it now. I thought it was the first poem in the book. It's not, though. All right, let's see. Sorry. This happens too every time. You're going to do a poetry reading. Here it is. 124. This is from Mudcloth Roots. Mudcloth Roots. And it's called If You Could Just Hear. And I was in the countryside in Tanzania at first. I was in Arusha in the countryside and hearing different sounds because I'm a city girl mostly. And one sound I heard, it was a bird, and to me it sounded like arututututu, 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 arututu. If you would just listen, if you could just listen. Mother Earth is speaking, her messages are clear. If you would just listen, if you could just hear, if you would just listen, she's sending a warning with global warming, rain, floods, drought, signs of pain, tsunamis, tornadoes, blizzards, and hurricanes. She's begging, she's pleading, stop the madness, stop the insanity, stop the wars and destruction, cease the vanity, save humanity. If you would just listen, if you could just hear, her messages are clear. Cease killing for oil, stop destroying the soil, underground nuclear testing, satellites in space, disrupting the Earth's natural balance and pace. If you would just listen, if you could just hear, the ancestors are near. They're trying hard to get through to you. If you could just listen, they're shouting, they're whispering in bird song and cricket calls. Hear me, hear me, hear me. Hear me, hear me, hear me, hear me. A-root-doo, a-root-doo-doo-doo. If you could just listen, if you could just hear.
The bird sound got me. That's pretty cool. Yeah, yeah, nice.
I write about everything, y'all. I write about everything. And that's what I do. You know, it's actually like it's my therapy, you know, but it's not. If you got real problems, then you probably need a real therapist. But you know what I'm saying? It's like it's my way of working through things that bother me or whatever. And it's also my entertainment. Don't let me be bored. I will sit there and write a poem. I will observe something and write about it, you know. So I'm never bored. Never. I've not been bored in probably 40 years or something. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I thank you so much for sharing
Thank
the
you.
piece of you with us.
This was fun.
Yeah.
I miss you.
I miss you too. I really enjoyed this time. This was good.
Give thanks.
Good. Yes, yes, all the time. Thank you, Jesus. All the time. Grateful. Well, I thank you. I thank you so much, cuz, for connecting.
All right. Peace.